Well, I couldn't be more excited about having this conversation around how to finish strong in 2024 and have that momentum, all of those investments of effort carry forward to position you to make 2025 your best year ever. I love talking to financial professionals in Q4, especially now. If the last 4 or 5 years taught us anything, it's that you wear a lot more hats than you used to. I mean, obviously, from a technical perspective, many of your clients, their needs are becoming more complex. There's more moving parts. So again, you've had to up your game there just from a core competency perspective. But now, directionally, I mean, managing your business, scaling up, uh, more consistency, HR issues, all of that. I mean, that's a big deal. And then, of course, emotionally, managing your people, managing your clients, managing your strategic partners, managing how they perceive you and how they describe you. I just want to make sure you're at the top of your game in all of the things that you manage for many reasons. Probably the most important from a client acquisition perspective is just a reminder, you're at your highest level of referability right now. I mean, this is an understatement, but I mean, the world is bizarre. It's noisy. It's uncertain. It's been said, in fact, I was speaking with Chris Jepson recently, and if I remember the math right, he said that about 44% of clients of financial advisors are underwhelmed, open to options and alternatives. That creates a huge opportunity for you. You combine that stage of readiness along with the fact that money is topical. There are referable moments happening where your clients, potential advocates, your strategic partners are speaking to people and they're talking about money and they're talking about apprehension and anxiety and uncertainty. I just want to make sure that when a referable moment occurs, a client or strategic partner of yours knows exactly what to say with persuasive impact and conviction. But of course, that goes both ways. Simultaneously, as you're working on your own referability, we have to make sure that we're competitor proofing our clients. We're not taking anybody for granted, rejuvenating how they feel about their relationship with you. Okay, so that's the premise of this conversation here today. Let me stop for a second. I'm going to do a quick plug because next week I'm doing a webinar on 17 proven best practices around how AI can up the productivity, consistency, and efficiency of a financial advisor's business. And again, it's no longer a book of business, it's a business. So I want to be clear on that. I'm also going to plant a seed because I'm very excited about something we're working on behind the scenes called the Turnkey Advisor, where that's going to be a membership opportunity for you to really stay close to the innovations and breakthroughs that we're having with our financial advisory community. So look forward to that. But again, the webinar on AI, I'm just asking you to be a serious student of this emerging technology because it is mind-bending in terms of the impact and momentum that it's gathering. Okay, so let's get back into this. The number one reason why a client leaves a financial professional is what? You know this. Lack of consistent, meaningful, personalized communication. Spasmodic, it's haphazard. Sometimes opportunistic, driven by salesmanship. That's what a lot of people experience. Now, I'm not suggesting that your clients experience that, but that's why there's such a huge vein of gold in terms of referability. You think about your favorite clients. Let's say you have 50 clients in your inner circle. Well, they have their own inner circle of close friends and family members. These are prospective clients. And your clients, when they become advocates, will have more persuasive impact on that group of people than you ever will. So that's the first thing. What's the number one reason why someone will refer a financial professional and make an introduction? Well, of course, it comes down to trust. But what do they trust? They don't just trust your technical ability and your core competency. They trust you as a person, your moral compass, your intentions, all of your qualities. And again, the credentials are huge. But they also have a deep appreciation and trust for the client experience you provide and for your process. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I want to make sure your clients have as much appreciation and understanding for your practice and your process as they do for you and your people. Okay, just expand their thinking around what they trust, because that is what converts a client to advocate status. Again, client will endorse you and say nice things about you in that referable moment, and they'll tell a friend to call you or contact you. Here's my advisor's phone number. Here's my advisor's email. This is where you can find them on LinkedIn. Okay, that's an endorsement. Rarely moves the needle. Advocates do not endorse. Advocates do not tell somebody to contact you. Advocates contact you on behalf of the friend or the family member or the client. So, what I'm about to remind you of is a very powerful yet very subtle strategy that combines both the reactive and predictive elements of trust. Okay, so you think about this. Reactive, you're a needs-based professional. Client has a need that emerges. Client has an unmet need that you've identified and you've suggested a solution for. Okay, you react to that. Buy-in. Okay, it's very powerful as a needs-based professional, but it's also expected. It adds to referability, but it doesn't often tip someone over because, again, minimum requirement, it's expected. Reactive. Predictive is unexpected. It's what people kind of look forward to, but it's a pleasant surprise when it happens. This is what it means to be a goals-based professional. So, and please do not be misled by the simplicity of this strategy. I could parade people through your office who'd say, at the end of the day, this is the most important thing I do, which is the 90-day call rotation. The call rotation is simply a scheduled, consistent 90-day rotation where you reach out at a minimum to the 20% of the clients who represent 80% of your business. Now, you can have a protege reach out to the 80% who generate 20% of the business. You live by the rules you set, but at a minimum. Now, some people, their rotation's more frequent than 90 days. It's 60 days, it's 30 days, but it is like clockwork, scheduled, engineered. 90-day call rotation, and that exercise compounds. Remember, money, it's not just money that compounds. We all know the rule of 72. Disciplines compound. They build on themselves. Neglect compounds. Things do happen gradually and then suddenly. That's the whole premise of the inflection point. 90-day call rotation. Now, I've been talking about this for years. I've had so many people say, oh, I used to do that and it worked. And I'm like, well, you can't argue with that logic. It works so well, you stop doing it. people develop a familiarity, a fatigue for things as they become more sort of ingrained, and they get excited about something new, and they make room for something new by dropping something old and proven. I cannot overstate the power of the 90-day call rotation. Now, of course, when I get into a consultation with a financial professional, they'll say, what do I say? Like, what do I do on the call rotation? And plus, I mean, most people don't even answer the phone. Okay, I'm telling you right now, if you just leave a voicemail checking in, making an observation about what's going on in their life or something that's important to them, that's an imprint. That has an impact. Should you get somebody on the phone? Well, of course, that's even better. And by the way, a 12-month call rotation is prompted on the client's birthday and then every 90 days. But undoubtedly, in Q4, you're going to go through the rotation within that 20%. Okay? But what do you talk about? You make it about them. You're not trying to be interesting. You want to be interested. You're not trying to impress somebody with your knowledge. You're trying to impress upon them that you care and you're thinking about them. So, of course, like virtually all other forms of relationship management, frame your call rotation in form. The premise here is just always be noticing, always be recognizing what's going on in someone's life. So don't mail it in. Don't just sort of go through the motions. Always get granular. So when you get somebody on the phone, when you leave a voicemail, acknowledge something meaningful happening in their life around their family, their occupation, or recreation. I mean, it's one thing to say, how's the family? It's another thing to make specific reference to a family member and something that's occurring in their life. Okay, so that's the premise. You reach out and, hey, I was just thinking about you, wanted to check in, hope all is well. And then, hey, how is this going? This specific thing going? And then just read the room. Are they distracted? Are they, pressed for time? Or are they welcome to a conversation? And this is where you can start to plant seeds and pivot from talking about them to talking about something that you're doing that relates to them. One example. Toward the end of the conversation, you can say, hey, just before I let you go, I'm just curious. I'm doing a little informal survey. I've been having so many conversations with clients and strategic partners, and I get this sense that there's a fair amount of uncertainty and apprehension for the future. How about you? Have you been talking to people? Are they hinting at the fact that there's a little bit of dread for the future, a little less optimism than normal? I mean, what's your take on that? You're just opening up the conversation using social proof about what people are talking about. Another example. Toward the end of the call, you can say to a client, hey, I just want to let you know, I mean, we are so ecstatic over here because we're engaged in an exercise right now where we're working with a consulting firm. We've embraced some best practices for the purposes of elevating the client experience. And I just can't wait to show you what some of those developments are. Just plant a seed. And I'll just tell you something. If your ideal clients are business owners, professionals, and executives, they will respond to that because that speaks closely to what they themselves are working on within their own business reality. Now, of course, if you have a really engaged conversation, you can expand on that premise. If they really connect with you on that theme, you could say, hey, do you mind, as part of this exercise, we always want to make our clients the voice we listen to. If we're trying to raise the bar and elevate the client experience, we have to keep talking to the people who are on the receiving end of what it is we provide. Can I ask you 3 quick questions before I let you go? See what happens. Now, this is a sequential, incremental process that's Socratic in nature. Many issues are, in fact, 2 or 3 questions deep, but just see how they respond. And if they say sure, just say, okay. First question. What's the one thing you value most about our relationship? I mean, I love what I do. This is not a job, it's a calling. What's the one thing? Let them respond. They'll probably talk about you and your qualities and skills and intentions as a person. No harm, no foul. It's just a priming question. They might acknowledge something that you've done for them recently, whatever the case may be. Just thank them. Thank them. Just say, your team's on cloud 9 because of the honor that you have from having all of these relationships and having second and third and fourth generation clients. It's all good. Second question starts to get interesting. Just simply say, okay, next question. What's the one thing you feel we could add to the client experience that we're not currently providing? Just one thing. Many of your clients are going to say, I can't think of anything. You're doing a great job. No problem. Some will acknowledge something. They'll say something. They might say something around something they think you should add, but you're already doing it and they're not aware of it. Or they'll actually give you some really good feedback. No matter what they respond, how they respond to question number 2, just simply say, okay, that is awesome feedback. I'll tell you why I'm asking you the question is because of the fluid and dynamic nature and all the many moving parts that we put together for our clients. There's some things that we do our clients aren't even aware of. Even our best long-term clients have either forgotten about or just are not aware. So as I said, in the future, I'm going to show you a little bit more depth around our process to ensure you've always got the complete picture. Even if there's some things that we do that aren't even relevant to you now, I just want to, make sure that you know where this is all going. And then the third question. Just simply say, hey, I really appreciate this few minutes in your feedback. Last question, and I'll let you go. When you talk about us with a friend or a family member, what do you say? Like, how do you describe us? And let them describe you. And brace yourself because you might not like what they say. Not because it's negative. You're just going to realize that, they talk about you around platitudes and superlatives and pleasantries, but they don't get granular. You'll find that the answer to question number 3 sounds a whole lot like the answer to question number 1. It just gives you an opportunity. You now have permission to simply say, okay, I really appreciate that. That means the world to us. And I mean, this just reminds me, this is why I became a financial advisor. But I will tell you, in the spirit of being our own best kept secret, I have to say that there's a value-added service that we provide for our clients that I don't think has ever been more valuable than right now with everything that's going on in the world. And perhaps we've never talked about it. Perhaps you have, forgotten, but we make ourselves available to be a sounding board for friends and family members of our clients. And just so you know, they do not need to become a client to take advantage of the service. It's a value-added service we provide. If they're important to you, they're important to us. But I got to tell you, this is the most fulfilling thing we do. And then tell a story. Tell a story about when somebody introduced you to somebody and just explain what happened. Just simply say, I got to tell you, like not too long ago, a really good long-term client of ours asked us if we'd speak to a good friend who was going through some issues. And I said, of course. And I could tell when I met them, they were carrying a pretty heavy load, a lot going on. And we just sat down. I got them to tune out the noise and focus on what mattered, what they could control. And I could see their apprehension melt away right in front of me. And it's moments like that, I say to myself, this is why I do what I do. Facts tell, stories sell. When you fuel your social proof with a specific actual story around something that happened, you think about it, your experiential encounters, especially around being introduced and actually interacting with somebody who was introduced to you, that's intellectual property. Leverage that, share that, because it creates trust and context for your value. Bottom line is, I want you to keep triggering moments of recognition and awareness for the fact that this is a value-added service you provide. And it's driven by your sense of purpose. You know, we spend so much time talking about process, but purpose is just as important as process. Your purpose is your why. Your process is your how. When your clients understand both the purpose and the process, they will get to a point where they feel they're doing a friend a disservice by not making an introduction. You might have heard me say this before because I talked about this just recently with a financial advisory team. I know an advisor that went through a reframing exercise with a small group of his favorite long-term clients, like the best, most complex, respectful, high quality clients. He just basically went back and reintroduced himself. He went through elements of what we've just talked about. Not long after reminding his clients about the value-added service around being a sounding board. And again, not pitching it with salesmanship, positioning it with stewardship, not asking for referrals, just reminding his clients about the concept of an introduction. He got a colossal referral. And of course, like you, he called up the Rainmaker and said thanks for the introduction, and then just asked him, if you don't mind, I just need to ask, like, what did you say to your friend? Because when I met him, I couldn't believe how bought in and predisposed he was. What did you say? This is a long-term client. Said, what did I say? Well, you know, I had him over for a barbecue and something triggered him. He went off on a rant about his current advisor. He asked me if I was happy. And I just said, like, I've had other advisors in the past. I've never felt better about the path I'm on. And then I just explained your process, like back of the napkin. And then I just said to him, look, at the end of the day, the reason why I sleep well at night is because if anything ever happened to me, the second or third call my wife makes is to you. And the advisor, as he's describing this to me, says, I could feel his conviction. I could feel the persuasive impact. And I said to him, what do you think he would have said before the reframe, like a year ago? He said he probably would have told his friend that he trusts me, he likes me, and I make him money. Like, it's a different form of advocacy. So just make your clients the voice, engage them. Okay, be proactive and predictive in your communication, amplify your referability. And the cumulative effects, you're competitor proofing, you're getting out in front of evolving needs, and you're just stoking this whole concept of advocacy to coincide with the stage of readiness. You don't know when a good client of yours is going to be in a setting where they're given permission to talk about you, but it's going to happen. You might have to imprint and keep reminding them about the concept of your value-added service several times before it coincides with the stage of readiness. But I'll tell you something, I'll plant a seed here. You can ask for this. Maybe you've already seen it, but we have a brief video. It's called 7 Pillars, 1 Process. It's how to reframe and get a client to not fixate on buying individual things, but to buy into the one thing that they can only get from you, and that's your process. Okay, and everything's positioned as being part of your process. My favorite aspect of this approach is the 7th pillar, which is your value-added services. That's a placeholder. I mean, you think about all of the things you do because of your decorum and professionalism, right? Advice, service, planning, and on it goes. That's not just because you're a good person. That's because you've engineered this all-encompassing approach. It's all part of your process. And being a value-added sounding board for friends and family members, that's part of your process. It's really good for your clients. Think about your clients. How many of your best clients have started to entertain at a minimum, or actually get involved in alternative investment solutions that are outside of your process. Like, do your clients disclose this to you? Do they share with you all of the different dynamics of their approach to financial independence, even if it's outside of the process? Like, do you have that positioned? And is that part of the wedge that creates introductions? I'll give you a little scenario. Financial advisor gets a call from a substantial client. The client says, "Hey, look, you got to do me a favor. I was talking about you over the weekend with a friend who's going through some really heavy stuff right now. He said, okay, have your advisor call me." So he's literally waiting for your call. Thank you. Okay, great. Financial advisor reaches out to the prospective client, just says, "Hey, your good friend is a client of mine, asked if I would just reach out and have a conversation with you." They talked on the phone. The advisor said, "Hey, do you want to actually get together? You don't need to become a client. I just be a sounding board for you. Another set of eyes. Do you see the merit in getting together? Because I'll carve out some time. I have specific time dedicated just to be a sounding board. Do you want to do that?" "Yeah, I would like to do that." Prospective client shows up for the meeting. There's an agenda. There's no hidden agenda. And then he asks the question. He just simply says, "If you don't mind me asking, like, what prompted you to see the merit in having this conversation, if you don't mind me asking?" And the prospective client, with a pretty heavy sense of, dread, said, "Honestly, I'm dealing with some things right now. My dad just passed away. And, I'm responsible for dealing with all of this, along with all the other, emotional elements, as you can imagine. Anyway, I knew my dad was doing pretty well. Turns out he was doing very well. And I also knew that he collected coins from around the world, gold, silver, platinum coins. He's got coins from the Roman Empire. It's quite impressive. I didn't realize the significance of this collection. It's north of $500,000 in value. And right up front, I asked my advisor what I should do, and he just told me to sell it. There was no sort of bedside manner around it. It's just sell it, let's invest it. And I get it. But I just can't bring myself to do that. What do you think? And the advisor, obviously, listen, I'm so sorry about your loss. It must be unbearable. And yeah, I will definitely play any role you need to help you navigate this. But I got to tell you something. If that's me, if that's my dad, I'm just the sort of custodian, the caretaker of his life's collection. I would honor that. I'm just going to pass that on to my kids and grandkids down the road and let them think about him. And the advisor said that as they got into this exchange, the prospective client just literally opened like a flower in the sun. Like, it was just incredible energy and connection. And then he asked the advisor, like, "Why do you think my advisor wouldn't give me that advice?" And the advisor said, "Well, I'm sure your advisor, very diligent as a fiduciary and looking out for your best interest. But he doesn't get paid to give you that advice, of course. This is sort of outside." Anyway, you know what I'm saying here? Like, things are moving with intense velocity, and it's becoming more panoramic as people consider alternatives. And there are things that are outside of the process of a traditional financial professional that could, in fact, be the tipping point that creates an opportunity for a relationship. So remember, being a sounding board, for friends and family members of your clients is a value-added service that they will value more profoundly if it's positioned properly and, of course, if it's authentically represented. But it's not just for the people they know. It could be for themselves. Like, I just want to make sure you have a lens into a client's entire portfolio of investments. You know, they might have real estate. They might have done a venture with a relative on a biotech firm. I mean, there's things out there that at some point will have a liquidity event and may come into the process. Play the long game, be panoramic and all-encompassing in your approach, and keep positioning your value-added service. And just remember, this has never been more important. You know as well as I do, Q4 is notoriously volatile and turbulent. I mean, look at history. The panic of 1907, the crash of 1929, 1987, 2007, 2008. It seems like they always happen in September or October. And so just be positioned from your perspective, right? I mean, calm seas never produce a skilled sailor. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what people want is a sense of safe harbor. I'm in good hands. Communication does that, okay? Which is why, by the way, I'm suggesting to financial advisors to consider the concept in the spirit of being a goals-based professional, not just needs, but goals. What are your clients' goals now and in the future? And being a chief accountability and acknowledgement officer, which means you appoint somebody on your team to just notice what's going on in your client's life beyond conversations and beyond interactions. It's your job to know what's going on in your client's life, and it's your job to notice. So in a perfect world, somebody on your team, as part of their recurring relationship management process, from 2 p.m. to 2:30 every day, should do nothing but just scour the social media posts of your favorite clients. Just scour it. Just see what's going on, especially around form. Oh, okay. They have a grandkid that just got accepted to a great school. They got a new puppy, right? They got an award in business, recognized for a contribution to the community. Okay. They just started taking up pickleball or just came back from a Viking river cruise, whatever the case may be around their family, occupation, recreation. Notice, I mean, the more technology creeps into our lives, the more the human touch matters. Technology is designed to serve you, to liberate you, to notice. Okay. Now, I'm tipping my hand a little bit, but one of the AI best practices and strategies is a solution called Crystal, where you can consolidate and look for patterns around interests regarding your clients. Okay, AI is going to put so much sand in your hourglass if you consider it, but I'm just asking you to find that sweet spot between AI and EI. Okay, AI will never have emotional intelligence. That's where you come in. You combine the two of technology and efficiency and consistency along with that bedside manner. But remember, it's your job to know, and it's your job to acknowledge what's going on in their life, which is why, I mean, that chief acknowledgement officer should be empowered on behalf of your team to send out one card a day, one actual physical card a day to a great client to commemorate and pay tribute and to acknowledge what's going on in their life. Okay, I'm a big fan of sending out Thanksgiving cards in the fall and or holiday cards, Christmas cards in December. Make sure the cards are consistent in their feel. That's why I'm a big fan of lavish cards. Many of you are probably already, engaged with lavish cards. Their cards have the best impact, the best shelf life, and they're really great people. But just get into that concept of, birthday cards, moment of truth, critical life event cards, holiday cards, recognition. These are touch points as part of your client experience and your service model that I deem to be non-optional. in this era that we're in. It's never been more important, because that is becoming the unmet need, is just this sense that I'm in good hands. Okay, so the ROI is just through the roof. So look for lavish cards. And then I really encourage you to finish strong, to consider the concept of sending a holiday letter at the end of the year. You can include this within your Christmas card or your holiday card in December, or you can send it as a standalone. But, the whole premise of this letter is to talk about your people. You can talk about your team and what they're doing for the holidays. You can talk about your business, your practice, and what you're doing, how excited you are about adding new people or creating a new position, creating a new best practice as part of the client experience. You can talk about your onboarding process and how you've added something, whatever the case may be. People, practice, and then process. Talk about your process. You can just say, did you know? I came to this realization, a lot of our clients are not aware that a big part of our process as part of risk management is long-term care. And if you want, we can talk about this in the new year. Just plant seeds. Everything that's proprietary to you, the things that clients can only get from you, are your people, your practice, and your process. So that's the holiday letter. And then throw in the PS at the bottom. It's my favorite postscript at the bottom of the letter. And remember, a lot of people whiz right through the letter just to read the PS. This is where you put in your call to action. And this is what the PS at the bottom of your letter in December can say. PS, by the way, at the end of the year is the best time for me to thank my clients for introducing friends and family members to us throughout the year. It's a tremendous compliment and a huge responsibility, and something we never take lightly. That's it. Now, did I just ask you for a referral? No. I made reference to it. I triggered a moment of recognition and awareness for it, but I did not pitch it as a favor I'm asking of you. I didn't say, PS, by the way, as you know, I get paid in 3 ways, and we're trying to grow our business. We're always looking for new clients. No. You're positioning it as a service and a calling. I want your clients to appreciate your purpose, your process, and again, everything that makes you unique as a person, everything that differentiates you in terms of the practice and the client experience you provide, the things I can only get from you. But just remember something. This is where you win right now. It's going to be turbulent. It's going to be uncertain. This is where you can put distance between you and the pack. Here's another little plug. If you haven't already done this, Q4 is also the best time to pop your hood. Here's a QR code, not just for our AI presentation, so you can work on your business and think about what you can, adopt in terms of learning as a fiduciary, as a professional, and just as a individual. But there's another QR code for the Practice Management Index, the self-guided diagnostic tool to kick your own tires, just to get clear on where you stand in the industry and what refinements and optimizations you can make. And I'm also going to include a link to just a gentle reminder about the calling, about the noble profession of a financial professional. And that is the dash poem. And the dash poem is everything that happens between now and when you decide to wrap things up. Okay, remember that old saying, the 2 most important days of your life, the day you're born and the day you figure out why and what your purpose is. Oh my gosh. So look for the dash poem. And hey, I just want you to finish strong. Make 2024 your best year ever, and have that compound and carry into next year to differentiate yourself, because this is where you win. You separate yourself from the pack, you thrive, and good things are going to happen. Okay. So I really appreciate your time and attention. Hope this makes sense, and stay in touch with us. Let us know what's going on, and and watch for that AI presentation coming at you next week. Okay. Take care.